What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Your Mouth podcast. We're here in the middle of the afternoon for a breaking news update. We don't do a lot of breaking news updates, but today we're going to do it with Monica Perez. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Robbie, it's great to be here. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up on the news, and it's just so preposterous that a lot of times I just want to tune it out. But occasionally something makes me laugh so hard that I have to dig into it a little bit. So today, today was.
I'll kick it off. We had
yeah.
we got to watch AOC get fake arrested.
And then her excuse was, so what she did was she supposedly got arrested and she walked with her hands behind her back like she was a big threat and they handcuffed her. And then she gave a power to the people sign with her uncuffed hand. And her answer was like, basically, hey, Whitey, you think I was faking it, but we know that's how you don't get shot. Hands up, don't shoot, put your hand behind your back. That's the way to do it. That's how they teach us in the Bronx. But she moved out of the Bronx when she was 5. Like, I think people know a lot of the basics about her. Like I say,
Right.
I'm not from Brooklyn. I'm from upstate, like not very far upstate. I still got the accent a little bit, but I grew up upstate.
That was every nice kid that I met in high school, not even high school, it was grade school. They all like to say, yo, I'm from Philly. And there were some nice Jewish kid from a rich suburb of Philly, but they all put it on a little bit like they were hood.
You have to. Only recently, like even in my age, I was like, you know what? I'm not really from Brooklyn. Like, I have 8 brothers and sisters who are all from Brooklyn, and they think I'm from upstate. So my cousins are like, let's meet some lumberjacks. I'm like, it's Rockland County. Like, I can see the city from here, but it's
Right.
not the city. And she grew up in Westchester, but they've actually scrubbed some of the stuff about what her real story is.
What do you mean? There's more footage of her dancing in college?
No, there's actually a YouTube video, which I just tweeted this second, of her in 2011. So that's before her whole, like, had to save her family, waitressing for minimum wage, which isn't even possible. I have a lot of holes to punch in her waitressing story because I was a waitress. But she's doing this thing like, oh, this is the startup I did. I work for this incubator and I make books about, showing the positive side of the Bronx. She's extremely well spoken. She graduated 4th in her class in BU.
Wait, so she's actually smart?
Yeah, 4th in her class in BU. Think about that. You know how big BU is?
I couldn't even get into BU.
Yeah, exactly. I know. That's what I was like, really? Wow. And then she interned for Ted Kennedy when she was there. She did a TED Talk, I think, in 2011, the year she graduated.
So then how does she do such a good job of coming off dumb and smart at the same time?
I don't know, but I will say another person who I called a created person like this is Stacey Abrams, and her majors were acting and science. And I feel like they teach them how to act. I think I always thought maybe they were deciding whether to make Stacey Abrams a politician or like the next Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, I think because she took science, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Stacey Abrams is that smart also?
Yeah, she's super smart. Oh my gosh, you should see her internship. She worked for the State Department. She worked for Kissinger. She was in Russia at Yukos Oil. She did a Salzburg internship. She's like ridiculous. And I could never get one of those internships. She's off the charts.
Let's take a step back and go define what you mean by created person.
So this is what I mean. There are people who I think they pick from a really young age, and I finally understand.
Disney. Creepy Disney shit, like when they had Britney Spears and the other ones
yes.
like in the little Mickey Mouse Club.
Yes, and that's what I think. Like, many are called, but few are chosen. I think they get a lot of them, and then a few rise to the top. I mean, Fidel Castro wrote a letter to FDR when he was 12, and they say that he was I think that's like the original created person. And in this case, even like James Comey when he was 17, he testified so convincingly against an innocent man that the Ramsey rapist, that they had to pay that guy like $3 million. And I think like at that moment, he must have run into some FBI agent who was like, wow, this kid's a sociopath. Like, we could use a guy like Jim, and they pick people like that. And I wouldn't go.
So for parents with kids, how would you advise that they can get on the CIA's radar for these great positions?
I haven't actually an answer for that. Both of these kids, both AOC and Stacey Abrams, did these summer programs or high school programs that were tailored to people of color, of their particular persuasion. I think Stacey Abrams was
So
African
first you got to
American.
paint your kids.
So right. So you're much better off if you're just a super well-educated, upper middle class or whatever, like graduate school or higher parents, like their parents were. And then you can funnel them into these schools where they don't do it to like give you a hand up, because they'd much rather have these kids who already have a leg up on your regular inner city kids. And they just use them. I kind of feel like it's carpetbagging. Like they use them to go and get the vote in the inner city. They just exploit them. And then they have to probably teach them how to, like what Harry Reid said about Obama, like teach them how to speak in the dialect. That's maybe where the acting comes in for AOC and stuff, because that was not her. She grew up in Westchester. Her dad was an architect.
Oh, so you're saying she would never even have the Latin or Bronx accent that sometimes she puts on at times?
I don't think so. It's like when I make fun of my mother. My mother's downstairs. It sounds like she's from Brooklyn. I could do it in a second, but I'm not from Brooklyn. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to do
Well, if
it.
there's any accent in the world not to put on, it's that one.
I know. I'm sorry. It's great for her. And the problem is I can only use it when I'm actually saying things she
Right.
says, because it just
If
doesn't work
if you
otherwise.
get drunk and start complaining about things, does that accent come out?
Well, actually, people put me up to like, do your mom, do your mom. I guess it never gets old, but I think Sandy from the block is just doing, her aunts or whatever.
Okay, so let's build the story. So you got AOC, she's a young kid, rich parents. They send her to what kind of summer programs do you get like recruited at or
Well,
spotted?
with her, the only one I could find, it was some Hispanic thing. I could find the name of it, and then in 2017, they gave her like, X or whatever alum of the year. And so she had that one. Stacey Abrams had a Telluride program, which is really exclusive. But for a couple of other created persons would be Zuckerberg, Lady Gaga, Sergey Brin, and this guy, D'Angelo, I forget his name, who started Quora. Those four people were in a Johns Hopkins program called the Center for Talented Youth. And likewise,
Sounds like some X-Men shit.
yeah, it sounds like exactly. It sounds like that you're there to learn, but actually it was started as a place to study hyper intelligent young people. So if you could get a 1200 on your SAT in 7th grade, you could get into this. And
I
like,
knew kids in
yeah,
that thing. I remember they used to give
yeah,
us like those tests.
yeah, had to take the test in 7th grade. It's for that. And Zuckerberg's mother, you see very little about her. I believe she was a psychiatrist. So I feel like you really can't find anything about her. And I feel like
Is
she
he like Jesus?
probably
He doesn't even really have a mom or a dad?
he has parents. I mean, he does seem like Data. I literally think Data is more believable as a human being from Star Trek. But I think I went down that rabbit hole with Zuckerberg because I believe he was a classics major and he transferred to Exeter as a junior in high school. And as a person who's transferred as a junior to Harvard, like there were only 2 people that year who transferred, and or at least that's like a norm. And it's so unusual. And to transfer as a junior to Exeter in high school, I think that would be harder actually, because
What is Exeter?
Exeter is the #1 private high school in the country. It's super private. You live there, and it's extremely elite, very hard to get into. And I read from reading John Taylor Gatto, who you're probably familiar with. He's like an education guy, kind of cracked the code. He resigned from educating in a letter to the Wall Street Journal saying, "We're diseducating our children." And he was like, Teacher of the Year. He's a great guy, really interesting stuff. But he had pointed out that there was there's only a limited number of high schools, 4 or something like that, where 80% of the senators come from and
Ooh,
send their
interesting.
kids to. And so you're not learning anything in college. So I went to community college. I dropped out of high school and they like gave me a scholarship to Harvard. And now they get to say that like they let people like me into Harvard, but I didn't know how to get a job getting out of there. I didn't know how to, I could barely feed myself. I didn't know how to dress. And I was like, and I didn't learn anything. I'm like, why would you give me a Harvard degree? I only been here for 2 years. I don't know anything. And I realized because that's why I looked at Obama. Obama went to this really exclusive private high school, and that's where they actually learn like the rhetoric and how to persuade people. And that's where they get that. So like that Center for Talented Youth would be one that would be open for everyone, but you have to be able to pass that test. And of course, like I could never get my kids in there. I'm sure they do a check.
I always I try and pay this forward to any parents that have their kids going to college. And I told this to my younger cousins, they didn't believe me. The ultimate hack is if you can go to a community college and get a 4.0, which is easier than being at doing the PSA, the pre-college, whatever that was called
Yeah.
in high school, whatever those courses were, going to community college and having it needs to be a 4.0. Like you need to have a
Yeah, oh, yeah, and
4.0.
I worked 6 nights a week as a waitress. That's why I know that AOC is full of it. I knew right away.
Right.
I was like,
Oh,
"That's
because you're like,
complete
that's not,
crap."
but if
I
you
went
can,
to school for 7 years. I waitressed for 7 years while going I dropped out of high school, went to college, that was my story is what her story that's why I get called bullshit on it because I was like, "I that's
right.
not
Because you're like,
true.
that's actually what I did.
You don't
But
make minimum wage in waitressing."
it's a genius move just to pay it forward. And then we can get into how full of
Oh, yeah,
shit AOC
absolutely. It
is.
was great, and I learned more in the community college than I did
What?
in
Then
Harvard.
Harvard?
Yes, because in community college, I had a class with 10 people. The teacher was engaged. Like these are people who are teaching. Whereas at Harvard, you have to publish. A lot of times, the people who are teaching you are the TAs. So these are students. These aren't even teachers, really. They're graduate students. It was good. They were smart. And if I had been more savvy, I would have gotten more out of it. But as a
Right.
high school dropout, community college was a little more up my alley. I mean, I was smart, but I wasn't educated or particularly good at learning.
So the other thing is, not only is it easier to get into the elite schools, you end up going basically for at least half off because you got 2 years of credits, and then the college standards that apply to they all like have to reject kids so that they can keep up their rankings, but that doesn't apply for
Yeah.
transfers. So it's much easier to get
Oh,
in on a
yeah.
transfer.
And they paid for me. They gave me a full scholarship for those 2 years, and they accepted all of my credits.
Yeah, it's the greatest hack that no one tells
Yes.
you. Do kids, if you're listening right now, do all the drugs you want in high school, be a bad kid,
Drop
drop
out.
out. Yeah, just go to community college for 2 years. You're not going to learn anything anyways. Do what you're interested in, get the 4.0, then get your dumb degree from the other places, a signal that you can do it, and then go live your life. But getting
And your
back,
story is fantastic. Like, then you have this
oh
AOC
yeah.
story. I have that story. I'm not really doing much with it, but I have the story.
You're killing the game. So I want to talk about what's his name for a second. Dad over there. What's his name? Zuckerberg.
Oh,
So
yes. Mhm.
who made him? Is that like the deep state was like, we're gonna need this social media platform, and
So
so they
what
built it? Yeah.
the way I figured it for him, and I looked as deep into him as I could, and there just a lot of stuff is gone, and even the AOC stuff I used to have is gone. But with him, the way I figured it out, the reason I even went down this path is that when he was testifying before Congress, he had all the answers. He had all the answers, and he wasn't looking. And I was like, damn. I knew somebody who was interviewing for the CIA or had a friend who was interviewing the CIA, and she said they go for either someone who knows Russian or someone who's a history major because history majors have to memorize facts. And that's the most important thing. You can't write things down, you can't read them. And I thought, this guy, I don't know if he's any good at engineering or computers or anything, but his skill is that he's memorizing this stuff. So then I looked into it. That's when I went down the rabbit hole because I was like, mm-mm. And then I saw he had been a classics major, and that you really have to understand language and be able to memorize passages and everything like that.
But he seems
Read.
like the most unlikable. Like if you, I don't know if you saw the CEO of TikTok got grilled by Ted Cruz, and he was so handsome. I was like, I believe this guy. And he was pulling a great trick where Ted Cruz is basically asking him, well, you guys, like, you don't look at the data, but like you hand it off to these people, and then what's to keep China? And like, he just did the best job of not answering them. The point I'm getting at is there's people out there that seem to be really smooth salespeople. Zucker Pants doesn't strike me like one of them. Like, if I was trying to recruit just a charming guy to be the face of,
It would be Jack Dorsey.
yeah, sooner. Yeah, yes,
That's what I'm saying. He was a model.
right.
So I think that they have different people filling different roles. You have your asshole, you have Elon Musk. So one time I looked up like the
Do you think they
10.
really just cast this? Like the CIA creates these things and they literally cast individuals to be the face of it and pretend like they created it?
I think it's a little more his fractal, right? It's a little more not random, but the way they do scenarios, like the 2010 Rockefeller Foundation thing did the 4 scenarios of how do we get technology to every person on earth, depending on what the world is like. If it's going to be fractured, if it's going to be united, if it's going to be prosperous, if it's going to be poor. And one of them ended up being the SPARS 2017 document about the pandemic. So like they didn't know which one of those 4 scenarios that they were going to unroll. Because are you familiar with that document from 2010
Lay it
Rockefeller
on me.
Foundation? It's called like the technology how to implement technology in any of these futures. So they have these real deep state guys, like I think the guy who invented Siri at the Stanford Research Institute, which is what Siri stands for, was the one who did this scenario thing. And then he also did the SPARS thing. So they do the scenarios to see what to do. Like I think Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton were always, all three of them were okay with the establishment. Those were the three scenarios. And they just wanted to see which way it would break. Could you get the obnoxious, polarizing Christian right guy to win, who was born in Canada and couldn't have had American citizenship? So there'll be like a constitutional crisis. That's a good choice. Trump, we can, he's obnoxious and we'll do some Russian collusion thing. Or Hillary has illegal immigrants and everybody hates her. Like any of those three would have worked as a disruptive force with a questionable election. And it's just, those are scenarios. And I think they pick them. And likewise, I think many are called into these programs. I mean, these programs have 15, 20, 100 people a summer or a month in the summer. And they just see the one who rises to the top, probably the ones who are really smart, but also good actors, I would think. And very like non-existent morals, I think is important.
So let's make a quick run through, and then we can get a little bit more back to AOC. So some of the big names that are all casted into these parts. We've got Zuckerberg, social media. And so, well, let's break that one down. So the CIA wants a social media company and they can't launch it. So they have him launch it.
I think I looked into like the top 10 big tech billionaires, and like 8 of them had I could take 1 or 2 degrees of separation to military intelligence. As far as Facebook and Zuckerberg, the day that Facebook started, the CIA's life log, which was the basically exact same thing, shut down. CIA put one up there and people weren't using it. So they literally shut it down the day that Facebook, you can look it up. It's
Okay.
fairly well known in like conspiranoid circles. But so maybe having the Uber nerd, I mean, I'd have to go back and look. I mean, it's quite possible that data was actually really popular right at the time that they picked Zuckerberg. You know what I mean? Like it could have been that they just like to use archetypes or stereotypes that are already planted in your brain. And it was probably pretty credible. They wanted somebody who looked like a computer to
I get it. And then
maybe, I don't know.
And it's a win for you. They show up and they go, listen, you're going to take credit for this thing. And when we tell you to do something, you're going to do it.
Or maybe like he's kind of Aspergery or whatever and doesn't really isn't that savvy when it comes to that stuff. People can be taken advantage of even if they're smart. So who knows? I don't know anything about the twins who were in that movie against him. That they said that the Facebook was their idea. I forget their name, but who knows?
Isn't it the Winklevoss?
Yeah.
Who are stealing all my crypto on Gemini, but I'm too lazy to get myself a wallet.
Yeah, well,
yeah, they found
I've
a different name with
like
the
that.
CIA.
Yeah, so right, so maybe they were going to be the ones,
right?
And then it didn't, like they just didn't have the charisma or something, or the lack of charisma. Maybe people are too charismatic, and what you really want, like when Fauci flubbed throwing out the ball. If he were good at baseball, he wouldn't look like a nerd.
Right. Okay. So who are some of the other, because the only other person that ever mentioned this to me, and I was fascinated when he said it, but I was like, I know nothing about this, but in conversation, Sam Tripoli has dropped this one on me more than once, going like Bill Gates, and the big names were Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. He also said he didn't use the term manufactured people, but he was also saying or created persons. But he was saying like, you think Jeff Bezos really sat down and figured out this great company? It's like, no, I forgot what the lineage was, but he was like, it was basically handed to him.
He was basically raised or was close to his grandfather, who was, I believe, like the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Like he was, so military, especially the atomic stuff, was like the mother of big tech. Like big tech, that's why it's all in California. It's all big tech, and big defense and stuff are kind of a continuum. And even Bezos will say, I looked for a garage apartment so I could say that I started this company in the garage.
Oh, that was just literally, he was writing an origin story.
Yes. And he admits it because it's obvious.
And what's the deal with Gates? Because they say with Gates that like his dad was anti-people and involved in like abortions. Like,
yeah, the Gates thing. First of all, like, I don't know. I think it was through his mother's connections that he got this like ridiculous contract with IBM to start this thing up. And I think similar to like Zuckerberg and Winklevoss, he, I believe he took like open source software and just patented it like a jerk. I think that was his thing. But the dad, he said, I saw this clip in the James Corbett did a good bio of Gates in video form. And there was a clip where he said, and it's hard to really understand the way he said it, but that his father basically ran Planned Parenthood. But the time frame that he was giving was before Planned Parent, it was before Roe versus Wade. So obviously his father was big into eugenics and population control. And he said that the most important thing to his parents was population control. And then his first foundation with Melinda was the Center for Population Control. So that's been his thing. Like he was raised on that. Similar to George Soros went to London School of Economics, and I believe he studied under Karl Popper, who has this idea of tribalism, having to eradicate tribalism. And I think they actually are starting it just to eradicate it. And Soros said that he got rich so he could implement Popper's plans. And then if you look at how Soros got rich, he got rich by front running the pound. Okay, so he got rich by, he says he watched the waves of currency and how currency worked, and then he knew what trades to make because he just got the rhythm down. But when you're talking about a currency, there somebody knows the answers to that. That isn't a random, you know, like governments make policy choices. Like
Okay.
there was a big LIBOR scandal where they saw, you know, they could see the interest rates changing in advance by tiny amounts, and tiny amounts can make you a lot of money. And it didn't get a lot of press, but it was the biggest financial scandal in history. I have to
Right.
assume by, you know, in dollars, was the LIBOR scandal. And I always wonder if Soros was also a created person when he was working for the Nazis. He said when he was 14, and you're not supposed to say that, but he said it himself. I mean, that's when you pick them. That's when you
What
see
was
like
his
this
Nazi
kid does
gig?
not have morals. I guess they had people in the ghettos who were Jews and would, you know, run errands or collect stuff or take property. Was the story with him was that supposedly he confiscated people's property. I don't remember hearing him say that,
So in
but I
other
have
words,
heard him say the other thing. And,
all right, but
and I think that's
now
well established.
here's an interesting contradictory idea. So you take a Soros. You got Soros, and he's the devil, right? He's selling out the Jews and he's Jewish, and he's confiscating their wealth, and then he leaves with some money. But then you end up with a bit of a contradiction here, which is so then he goes to London and he takes on this idea of how he can make the world a better
Yeah.
place. And the deep state or whoever that cabal is likes the way he handles himself. And they go, all right, we're going to give you the insider trading on currency so that you can amass all this wealth and implement this plan. But like, if he was, I guess, inherently evil, why would he buy into this idea of paupers of like, I would see the reducing tribalism or whatever. I think that's what you said was the issue, is being like, uh, a dumb idea. But like to some, like there's some socialists who are evil that they push it because they just want it as a front of a way of selling their evil. And then there's other people that are dumb and kind of believe it. So to like, does he actually have a full, like a guiding philosophy there that he thinks makes the world a better place? Or I think you might have accidentally muted yourself. I think you might be muted, or maybe we froze for a second.
Well, I would say that what they like is this world control. Really? I think I'm having connection problems.
What's up, everybody? Hopefully Monica comes back, but usually it's tough to get the sponsor plugs in when I got a guest, especially when they're on a roll like this. They're giving us all this information. And if you're getting spooked, make sure you got sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code RYM and get yourself 20% off. And you know what's so great about the sheathunderwear.coms? If shit hits the fan and you got to move, your nuts aren't going to be flopping all over the place. Nope, they got a pouch. You can keep everything separated, cool, calm, and collected, especially if you got to be on the move on the summer months. And who knows? Maybe you're only going to have one pair of underwear. Maybe shit's going to hit the fan, and that's it. One piece of underwear is all you're going to have. You want to make sure that sheathunderwear.com, to use promo code RYM, you're going to get 20% off. I see that Monica is coming back. Hopefully we don't have additional connection problems. the summer months, sometimes all the power ends up going to your heater, I mean your air conditioner. And so the next thing you know, you're getting kicked off of shows. There's no energy to control your bandwidth. All right, I was literally just rambling and wasting time till you can come back. So you're in the middle of talking about Soros's guiding philosophy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but
I think
Soros and what I think his real plan was. Can you hear me now?
I think so. Maybe, yeah, maybe without the cam, we'll it'll be less lagging. Ah, we lost. Usually the connection issues are on my end. You guys don't see it during part of the problem. You just see a fully put together show, courtesy of Brian Mackey, our wizard behind the scene, our producer extraordinaire. And usually I'm at fault for bad connections. In this case, it's nice to be the one with the good connection who gets to go, hey, it's this other person's fault that wait. Oh, Monica's still here. You still there?
Yeah.
I don't know. We might have to, we might have to tease a part two, which is always fun. That now people know that there's fake people out there. Every time they walk into a corporation, they don't know, is this a real CEO, fake CEO? Is Walmart just run by the CIA? Did they go into Afghanistan, take over the heroin trade and Walmart at the same time to make sure that they can amass all the world's wealth? Who knows? All right. Let's give it one more minute. I'll take some comments and then we'll see if Monica makes a return. And if not, we'll have to reschedule. Because, man, I'm learning a lot here. This is some fascinating shit. We got Forest Mommy coming through with the comment the deep state got her. Um, hopefully they just disconnected it. It would be terrible to, but come out, Summer Port Store happening at Forest Mommy's. And check out her show, Sunday Streams, where she urinates on other individuals. That's a good plug. Go check that one out. SR Extraordinaire, Big Tech took her internet out. I think so. She was, well, you hit too many of these red flags all at once, and then the tech companies come after you. So don't be talking about fake CEOs, or you got to come up with better turns of phrases so that they don't realize that you're giving away their whole scheme of recruiting our kids. Rick Smith, Philip Exeger Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire. I just finished a vending machine contract with them. There you go. Get those kids fat. Make sure, I once had a job restocking vending machines and, dude, I ate so many snacks. I was a lot heavier then. And it's an active job because I used to do the sodas. So you had to like lift up a lot of sodas every day. I spent all day in that work fan eating honey buns and Snickers bars. It was quite a lifestyle. St. Michael, this ad break made available by bad internet connections. That is true. But, at least people are learning about their sheets. I got my sheath underwears on right now. Oh, yeah, I'm going to whip it out on the pod. Am I? Can we get it to the stream? Oh, look at that in the fabulous colors. And now, got to readjust so that the things can be, all right. We got Fuckerberg is a lizard. I would agree with that. As far as lizard people go, he's pretty close to it. And then Roscoe coming through with the high Rob fires. All right. And it looks like Monica's making one more valiant attempt to reconnect with the stream. We'll see if it works. And if not, I'll send her an email so that we can reschedule. We can do a part two. I'm all for teasers. Like even the Avengers movie, you had to wait for the second half of that thing to come out. Didn't just happen automatically. Who knows? Maybe she took over a neighbor's apartment, kicked in the door, and said, I'm about to expose the CIA. Let me on. All right. Let's see. Be the last attempt. Might be 3 strikes, you're out, and then we'll have to reschedule. All right, we'll take a couple more comments, see if this gets connected. Megaton Samurai, this uninformed citizen guy knows his underwear. That's right. You got to start from the bottoms up. You got to make sure that you have a comfortable setting for your ass crack, for your nuts, and then from there you can start to accumulate knowledge. Because who can read books when you're squirming? Cole Warren didn't have a clean pair of sheets for today, and it's like the fucking Everglades in my ass crack. You see, that's what happens. And then last comment, and then I'm going to email Monica. We'll reschedule for part 2 about fake AOC getting fake arrested and not even being a real human being a fabrication of the deep state. Nancy Pelosi's out there and she's got heavy tits and she's recognizing who the next generation of leaders will be. I shouldn't be talking this way. Monica's a nice lady that we can keep my buffoonery for other episodes. Senior extraordinaire, the emperor of vaping, Rob the Vampire. I don't know why. I don't know what that is. Monica is right about everything. I'm okay with that comment. This comment is good for the algorithm. I'm good with that comment as well. And everybody, we're going to call it a stream. It was a whole half hour teaser for when I'm next able. Who knows? Maybe the next Monica episode will have to be in person so that the internet, big tech can't come and shut us down. Thanks everyone for hanging out. As long as we're all hanging out, and I'm rambling here, trying to fill time. I'll make a couple announcements. We'll be back. I will reschedule Monica, and we will do a part 2 on fake people. Maybe I'll even track down Sam Tripoli for it. Maybe I can even maybe we could do like a super episode. Maybe even in person. Who knows? Think big. Throw it out there. Sam, if you're listening, you want to do an episode with me and Monica about fake people? It'll be a good time. We can even do it on your show instead. All right. Based is here with Forest Mommy. That's smart. Hit like and subscribe. Go do that. Based, bring us more RYM. I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. I just put up a live one today from Atlanta. And then I will probably put out a solo one on Friday. I'm hoping to have Steven, our non-scientist Wonder Boy, back on Saturday. And then next week I'm here all week. So we'll probably get out at least 3 episodes and then back on the road. And then I think while I'm on the road, we're going to be doing episodes slightly less often because I like saving the best topics for when I'm live. All right, listen, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Get your tickets for Summer Porch Tour. More dates coming at you. Check out Monica's podcast, The Propaganda Report. I might have messed that up. I should keep better notes before this. I'm going to put it into the episode description. Man, is she on top of her stuff, bringing the good storylines. So go and you can follow her on Twitter, Monica Perez Show, and I will get back in touch so that we can get some more information about these fake people. I don't trust anybody anymore. If people text me, I'm like, were you recruited as a kid? I want to see pictures of you as a kid. If you were cute, I don't trust you. That's it. I'm only hanging out with ugly people moving forward because they recruit. I want to know, that's the new way you're going to have to vet people. You're going to have to track down with social media. You're going to have to see what was taken out of the record. And then when this person was 6 or 7 year old, were they a maniac? Were they evil? Were they cute? We're going to have to figure out the telltale signs for spotting. I bet you don't start a lizard person. I bet you're actually born as a human being, and then they recruit you, and they give you the lizard serum, and then you become one of them, and then you got to represent the CIA for the rest of your lifetime. And then once you're in the club, you're addicted to whatever they give you, so there's no getting out. That's not an option. And then senior extraordinaire coming in with the good joke at the end. So we'll close on this. Rob wants pics of kids. This couldn't go wrong. There you go. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll appreciate the support. Appreciate everyone came out for Summer Porch Tour. And I have other announcements, but I like to organize those for the solo pods. I usually don't do plugs when we have guests on. So that's it. I'm just rambling. Bye.